Hello and welcome to you wherever you may be. This week I'll try to talk about an ancient sense of religion that comes from a much higher mind than the world we know today. And I have a reading from the Vedas, as well as 3 from Gurdjieff, one on the famous dagger dances of the Caucasians, another on the formation of the soul, and the first one about the distribution of true knowledge amongst our people. Imagine that for the whole of mankind, half a pound of knowledge is allotted a year. If this knowledge is distributed among everyone, each will receive so little that he will remain the fool that he was. But thanks to the very fact that few want to have this knowledge, those who take it are able to get, let us say, a grain each, and acquire the possibility of becoming more intelligent. All people cannot become intelligent even if they wished, and if they did become intelligent it would not help matters. There exists a general equilibrium which cannot be upset. That is one aspect. The other, as I have already said, consists in the fact that no one is concealing anything. There is no mystery whatever. But the acquisition or the transmission of true knowledge demands great labour and great effort both of him who receives and of him who gives. And those who possess this knowledge are doing everything they can to transmit and communicate it to the greatest number of people, to facilitate people's approach to it and enable them to prepare themselves to receive the truth. But knowledge cannot be given by force to anyone, and as I have already said, an unprejudiced survey of the average man's life, of what fills his day and of the things he is interested in, will at once show whether it is possible to accuse men who possess knowledge of concealing it, of not wishing to give it to people, or of not wishing to teach people what they know themselves. Well, I have the sense these days, if I listen to people on the internet and so on, it's as if I want to wash out my head afterwards. Humanity is like a tree. On occasion it rises high enough to really feel the sun strongly, but on other occasions it contracts. People talk, but they don't really understand what they're saying, just like Jesus said. They don't have ears to hear. But you see, I walk out into town and speak to people, and I assume that something real is happening between us, and that our leaders are sort of working in our interests and sort of know something. But there is something gravely wrong on this planet. There is something gravely wrong amongst human beings. That is called the fall of man, or the original sin, or those words are trying to explain there is something seriously wrong. Because you should be able to expect that things are more or less okay. Everybody should expect that, but that's not the way things are, because the minds of men are catastrophically damaged. I had a look at this graph of the decline in biodiversity in the different regions of the Earth. It doesn't look good. We look like we're coming to the end of a cycle. Last week Gurdjieff said that the centers of initiation arise one after the other, the first, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, like they have the Paraparshanak, in sequence, and then they die out. And as the center of initiation fades away, so do the people that are associated with it. They also fade away. Things start to catastrophically go wrong. They start to do things completely opposite to what they had done in their history. It's really quite strange to see. And many people have searched for knowledge. But those who search and they read, they are not the ones who practice. And those who practice don't read. That's the problem. It's always the same problem. It must be said that like everything living, the earth and the planetary world and the sun all give out emanations. out in space between the sun and the earth are, as it were, three mixtures of emanations. The emanations of the sun, which are longer in proportion to its larger size, reach the earth and even go through it unchecked, since they are the finest. The emanations of the planets reach the earth but do not reach the sun. The emanations of the earth are still shorter. The emanations of the group of planets reach the earth but do not reach the sun. The emanations of the earth are still shorter. In this way, within the confines of the earth's atmosphere, there are three kinds of emanations: those of the sun, and of the earth, and of the group of planets. Beyond it, there are no emanations of the earth. There are only the emanations of the sun and the planets. And higher still, there are only the emanations of the sun. A man is the result of the interaction of planetary emanations and the earth's atmosphere and matters of the earth. At the death of an ordinary man, his physical body disintegrates into its common parts. The parts from the earth go to the earth. Dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. Parts which came with planetary emanations return to the planetary world. Parts from the earth's atmosphere return there. In this way nothing remains as a whole. If the second body succeeds in becoming crystallized in a man before his death, it can continue to live after the death of the physical body. The matter of this astral body in its vibrations corresponds to matter of the sun's emanations and is theoretically indestructible within the confines of the earth and its atmosphere. But all the same, the duration of its life can be different. It can live a long time, or its existence can end very quickly. This is because, like the first, the second body also has centers. It also lives and also receives impressions. And since it lacks sufficient experience and material of impressions, it must, like a newborn baby, receive a certain education. Otherwise it is helpless and cannot exist independently, and very soon disintegrates like the physical body. Everything that exists is subject to the same law, for as above, so below. What can exist in one set of conditions cannot exist in another. If the astral body comes up against matter of finer vibrations, it will disintegrate. And so to the question, is the soul immortal? In general, it is only possible to answer yes and no. To answer more definitely, we must know what kind of soul is meant and what kind of immortality. As I have said, the second body of man is the soul in relation to the physical body. Although in itself it is also divided into three principles, taken as a whole, it represents the active force. The positive principle in relation to the passive negative principle, which is the physical body. The neutralizing principle between them is a special magnetism, which is not possessed by everyone, but without which it is impossible for the second body to be master of the first. Further development is possible. A man with two bodies can acquire new properties by the crystallization of new substances. A third body is then formed within the second, which is sometimes called the mental body. The third body will then be the active principle, the second the neutralizing, and the first, the physical body, the passive principle. But this is still not the soul in the real meaning of that word. At the death of the physical body, the astral body may also die, and the mental body may remain alone. And although in a certain sense it is immortal, it too can die sooner or later. Only the fourth body completes all the development possible for a man in the earthly conditions of his existence. It is immortal within the limits of the solar system, and the real will belongs to this body. It is the real I, the soul of man, the master. It is the active principle in relation to the other bodies taken together. All four bodies which fit one into another may be separated. After the death of the physical body, the higher bodies may become divided. Reincarnation is a very rare phenomenon. It is possible either over a very long period of time or in the event of there being a man whose physical body is identical with that of the man who possessed these higher bodies. Moreover, the astral body can reincarnate only if it accidentally meets with such a physical body, but this can happen only unconsciously. The third body, the mental body, has an advantage. It is able to choose. This particular passage has so much technical information in it, you could replace most of the scriptures of the earth with it. And I'm happy to say that in the Chinese arts that I practice many hours every single day of my life without fail, these are correctly represented. Working on the integration of the physical through the different faculties and then moving into the second body and third body, these are represented and not hard to find. In India it is also there, but somehow the practice has changed. In the outward traditions of the West, for instance Freemasonry or let's say Greco-Roman culture, there is the sense of progression to become a master of a craft or a king, a general. The word general in the military means somebody who has all faculties. So you can see somebody who gets to that level theoretically has done the development, but he did it externally. In Paris again, going from one of these disreputable places to another, we eventually reached the famous street of Montmartre, which are not strictly speaking on Montmartre itself, but on the lowest slopes of the district of that name, which abounds in every kind of disreputable nightclub, intended, however, not for the beings of the community of France, but exclusively for foreigners. Aside from these dubious establishments, there are many restaurants there also designed for foreigners that stay open until dawn. This whole district in general comes to life only at night. By day it is almost dead, as they express it, and not one foreign visitor ever goes there. All these restaurants have what are called open stages, on which are presented various amazing things that supposedly take place among beings similar to themselves, existing on other parts of the surface of their planet. They show the belly dances of the African beings, and the Caucasians with their dagger dances, and the mulattoes with their snakes. In a word, whatever is considered that season to be a fashionable novelty. And what they show on these stages, as supposedly proceeding among the beings similar to themselves, breeding on other continents of their planet, has nothing in common with what I, who had existed everywhere and had observed and studied all the specific manifestations of the beings of each locality, has seen with my own eyes in those very places. Recently in this Montmartre, many special Russian restaurants have been opened, and in these Russian restaurants, as well as in others, the so-called artists and actors are beings of the great community of Russia, chiefly from the former ruling class. Here I may as well tell you that only a short time ago the fathers and grandfathers of these artists and actors of the contemporary theatre restaurants, when they frequented the same Montmartre establishments at the expense, of course, of the sweat of their peasants, ridiculed and insulted the individual dignity of beings of other communities. But today their children and grandchildren have to humble themselves and serve as objects for the satisfaction of the Hasnamussian caprices of newcomers from other communities whose pockets bulge with money. As regards such a state of affairs, our dear Mullah Nasruddin has another very wise saying: "If a father likes to ride even on a child's sled, his son will have to drag the big village sleigh all the way up the mountain." Just open the newspaper and you can see this story playing out. Paris is now overrun with foreigners because that small Las Vegas in the center of Paris has exploded into a cancerous growth. There are so many bad things that happen on this planet that the only recourse are the hours. The only thing that counts, I say this to myself all the time, the only thing that counts is not what you've seen, what you've heard, what you've done. The only thing that counts is the only thing that counts, and that is the amount of hours of intensive work that you do every day using real traditional methods taught by sincere people. If you use common sense, you can find that is the only thing that counts, and that is the only thing that's going to help you or your people. Here Gurdjieff ridicules the delusions people have about the Africans or the Asians or the South Americans. People love to spin these stories about other people, even about themselves. And on the other side, there are the humanists and the scientists who say, oh, we're all equal because nothing means nothing and nothing is the nothingness of nothing. Well, these people are obviously highly qualified to make such amazing statements. But the truth is that people are very different. And a group of people who have lived in the same country, who have been cultivated by the same traditions, the same religions, the same sunlight and the same chalky, lime scale-ridden water, the same chocolate hobnobs, these people have developed unique qualities. And those qualities were earned with great struggle during the history of their own people, of their family, of their grandparents. And that material that has been earned by the work of their own people is the most valuable thing on the earth. For everybody. For everybody. That is what is valuable for any person in any country. So there is something real inside of people. There is something characteristic. There is a culture within people that has been earned. But they don't seem to understand it. And if they don't wake up soon, it's all going to be destroyed. And everything will be cut down once again to the level of grass. And the winds will blow, and the earth will die once again. Strinan maddatabanduna, troho yosaf hiho tita, karma birkihamid hiarir, Naham kalpo vyapohitom. I have killed many friends of women, and I have thus caused enmity to such an extent that it is not possible to undo it by material work. Material prosperity is sometimes hampered by sinful activities. For the people of the material world are sure to commit sins even unintentionally in the course of discharging their duties. This karma of the material plane is like that. It creates one action and another reaction simultaneously, and thus increases the chain of material activities, binding the performer into material bondage. And there are 5 kinds of imperceptible sinful activities, just like when you are walking on the street. There are many ants and germs that are being killed. I did not know, and I do not wish to kill, but they are being killed. To relieve such sinful reactions, the Vedas prescribe several kinds of sacrifices. It is said in the Vedas that by performing the Asvamedha Yajna, the sacrifice of horses, one can get relief from even the killing of a Brahmana. But historically, Yudhishthira Maharaja did perform these sacrifices of horses, but he thought that even performing them was not sufficient to fully relieve the karmic sins. In a war, even the husband or the brother, or even the father and sons go to fight, and when they are killed, a fresh enmity is created, and thus a chain of actions and reactions increases, which is not possible to be counteracted even by 1,000 sacrifices. Therefore, in this age of decay, there are no expert Brahmana at a high enough level who can chant the mantras properly. And in this stage, even these sacrifices are therefore forbidden. That's from the Srimad-Bhagavatam. The idea that is expressed there of sacrifices being an eye for an eye and undoing the karma that you have done. That is how karma is understood today, but I think that is a fallen understanding, and that no doubt in an ancient time people knew that the sacrifices were part of the octave. But that knowledge decayed, and then they were reinterpreted at a lower level to being one for one. The idea of initiation, a center of initiation where a certain transmission reaches you directly, is something people like to talk about. And it must come from the age when people could communicate with each other telepathically, from an age when they could feel the aliveness in the forest and the other spirits that lived on this planet. That age is a long time past, and that knowledge is no longer appropriate for the people of this age. All those things might be possible, but you would have to practice with the understanding that you are trying to enter a world several magnitudes more illuminated than this one. I was just reading that in the time of Jesus and Buddha and Lao Tzu, the number of people on this planet were roughly 100 million people. Today there are 8.5 billion, about 100 times more people, 2 orders of magnitude, which means that they have fallen 2 large steps down from that time. Those few beings who are actually penetrating along the path must be quite few. A small country has fewer people. Though there are machines that can work 10 to 100 times faster than man, they are not needed. The people take death seriously and do not travel far. Though they have boats and carriages, no one uses them. Though they have armor and weapons, no one displays them. Men return to the knotting of rope in place of writing. Their food is plain and good, their clothes fine but simple, their homes secure. They are happy in their ways. Though they live within sight of their neighbours, and crowing cocks and barking dogs are heard across the way, yet they leave each other in peace while they grow old and die.